Hello guys, and welcome to video number 2. So this is going to be on basically diabetes in a nutshell regarding type 1 and 2. Okay, so this video is probably mostly suited for people that are newly diagnosed to type 1 or type 2 diabetes. So if you know anyone that's a friend or a family member and they've been newly diagnosed, or they've been diabetic type 1 or 2 for only a short amount of time, even within the first couple of years actually, and you feel like they could do with some help with understanding their condition a bit more, like how it works, then definitely pass this video on to them and let them know all about it. Okay, so we'll start with type 1 first, right? So that's the diabetes that I am, type 1 diabetic. So type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease, okay? So autoimmune basically means that the body just decides to attack itself for reasons unknown yet. We don't actually know why this happens. And in our case, with type 1 diabetes, it's the pancreas that gets affected. So the pancreas no longer creates insulin, or in the time that you are diagnosed with diabetes, it barely has any left. So in the pancreas you have these things called islet cells, and you get alpha and beta cells, and it's the beta cells that create insulin, and they are pretty much being seen as like a foreign body in the pancreas from the body, and that's why the body decides to attack it. Okay, so it's a bit annoying, but that's basically just how that works. So because the body doesn't make any more insulin when you become type 1 diabetic, it means that whenever you have food, especially carbohydrates, your blood sugar will start to rise. Okay, now in a non-diabetic, when your blood sugar rises, or as soon as your body sees that the carbohydrates are digesting, like from when you're eating them, it will. Sorry, there's a bus just pulling out in front of me here. It will start to break down it'll start to release insulin into the body to cope with the sugars building up. Okay, now as a type 1 diabetic, this doesn't happen. Okay, we have to inject insulin, or the blood sugars will start to rise a fair bit. Okay, and that's quite dangerous, so we don't want that to happen. High blood sugars can cause problems down the line. We don't want that to happen, so it's really important that as soon as you become diabetic, you do everything you can to try and keep your blood sugar under control. Okay, now when you, like I was just saying there, when you first become diagnosed with diabetes, you actually still have your islet cells, some use of your islet cells. So they call this the honeymoon period, right? And in the honeymoon period, you'll probably need less insulin because the pancreas is still managing to function. And the longer that you can keep your blood sugars under control, or the better you can keep your blood sugars under control, the longer you're going to prolong that honeymoon period, right? And you'll probably find that and I've seen people go years with this because they've had such good control from the very, very beginning. Now, because I was 4-year-old, it was my parents who were looking after me, and as much as they'd done the best job they could, it was all new to them as well. But my honeymoon period, I don't actually know how long it lasted, but in 26 years of being type 1 diabetic, there is definitely no insulin happening whatsoever within my pancreas. So it is basically useless. Okay, so that pretty much sums up how type 1 diabetes works. Okay, now type 2 diabetes, as much as it's similar, and they both obviously, you want to keep blood sugars in normal range with both conditions. Type 2 is a condition where your body, the insulin doesn't work properly, and it's basically not doing its job anymore. Okay, and it's more or less a case of too much insulin. So as a type 2 diabetic, when you are having food like carbohydrates and you ingest the carbohydrates and your blood sugars start to rise, your pancreas does release the insulin, but it's not actually going to the cells, okay? And the blood sugar starts to rise even more. So what your body does because of this is it starts to release more insulin to try and fix the problem, without even realising that it's just making it worse, okay? And the more insulin that your body uses, okay, you become more and more insulin resistant, right? So that's pretty much what type 2 diabetes is. Now, there's the medication for type 2 diabetes is mostly metformin that you'll get, and that is an insulin sensitizer, so it'll just make the insulin more effective, okay? And it seems to do a good trick, it does work, but the problem I find is that type 1 diabetics and type 2 diabetics, they're told that you can continue to eat whatever you want, you just have to take your metformin or take your insulin, your injectable insulin with type 1 diabetes. And the problem with that is you will still have high blood sugars, without a doubt. It's going to happen, okay? So the low carb approach, which is what I'm going to promote a lot on this channel, is what I've found the best way to keep my diabetes and your diabetes under control and have your glucose levels in proper range, okay? So going forward, that's basically the the summary of both types of diabetes. I hope that's helped you out a lot in understanding it a wee bit more, but the key thing to take away from this today is that get your blood sugars under control is from the very beginning, and everything will run a lot smoother for you. Okay, see you in the next one.